I'm sorry, but Robert Pires is chatting absolute and utter. Bukayo Saka lacks consistency. Do you agree or disagree with this statement? Arsenal legend and one of my childhood heroes, Robert Pires, has come out with this statement. It doesn't seem that ex-footballers seem to watch football, if I'm honest. Now, who am I to disagree with Pires? He's A, been a professional footballer, 2, been an invincible, and 3, played at the highest upper echelon where professional football is concerned. Me, I'm just a YouTuber. But like everybody, I have an opinion. And I'm sorry, Pires, it pains me to say, but you're now joining a long list of former footballers of all clubs that talk absolute garbage. Now, I don't know why you came out with this statement. I don't know the context. I don't know why you would say this. And it puzzles me that someone with your level of expertise and previous playing experience has the utter cheek to come out with this nonsense. You know, you can accuse Bukayo Saka of not being entertaining, of, you know, and all of these kind of things. But consistency? The man's been doing it since 17 years of age. You know, saying he doesn't do it in big games, absolute nonsense. Let's not forget the performance he had at left back many years ago as a teenager at Old Trafford, much less the dramatic goals against Spurs, against Man United, against Liverpool, against City, his performance in the World Cup against France. He's done it at 2 Euros. Yes, he's missed the penalty and he could have done better across 2 legs in the Champions League. But of course, he's also scored against Bayern Munich, people. And when you look at his statistics year in, year out, the last 3 years in particular, he has delivered double figures for goals and assists. The utter cheek to say this man does not have consistency among all the things you could accuse him for. I'm sorry, but once again, it's garbage. I think it's very cheeky to compare him to Jeremy Doku. Yeah, sure, Jeremy Doku, he's a quality player in my opinion. He's very pleasing on the eye. He's a long list of players that are more aesthetically pleasing than Bukayo Saka, which is great. You know, Saka is not the most entertaining footballer on the planet. Neither was / is Mohamed Salah at Liverpool. We all know what he's achieved, and the goalpost moved because, you know, again, you can have all the party tricks. If you're not decisive in the final third, it doesn't make sense. Now, this isn't an attack at Jeremy Doku. You can see, and one thing I like about YouTube is you can come with receipts. You can see from when, way before Jeremy Doku and Manchester City was a thing, there was a certain YouTuber speaking about him. You can see Doku is a talented player, and if he had the decision making of Bukayo Saka, he'd be the best winger in the world, really and truly. Exaggeration, but you get the point, you know. And it does not make sense, really, because what is that? Is he decisive? No. You genuinely think Pep Guardiola would not swap Jeremy Doku in a heartbeat for Bukayo Saka through the very same reasons you're questioning now? Saka is 23 years of age. He is a veteran in that he's been on the scene for a while. He's 23. Of course, there are greater levels of consistency levels he's yet to hit. Of course, there are moments in games where you want him to make the difference even more, but it does not make sense to me. But for the purpose of this video, let's compare the two of these players, people. Now, when you look at it, of course, you know, Jeremy Doku is a better dribbler per se than Bukayo Saka. Is more likely to get bums off seats, but Saka is dribbling less, got more goals and assists, people. So who is more decisive? And in terms of their overall all complete game, you know, you look at the interceptions, you look at the crosses, you look at tackles, you look at all the metrics that go into being a modern day winger. Saka's got that. Saka is more likely to be decisive and show greater consistency among 90 minutes, people. Of course, Doku is a quality player. I'd love him at Arsenal, really. You know, he's got less, you know, you get less dribbles from Saka, more defensive and decisive actions. Saka plays more key passes, has a better crossing ratio as well. And again, yes, you know, there is a vast majority of talent available at Pep Guardiola's Manchester City in the attacking ranks versus Arsenal. But if Jeremy Doku was of the level of Saka, he'd be playing on a consistent basis, you know, and the minutes would be more reflected, you know. And let's not get started once again on big games for us. Where would we be without Bukayo Saka's goals and assists and general performances in the last 3 years? You take away his goals, it would be, you know, we'd be in a dire situation in a day and age where we got 91 goals last season, and you could question mark who is a clinical goal scorer. Saka did it for the majority of the season. Only Trossard and Kai Havertz in the second half of last season could ever talk to Bukayo Saka in terms of that. Goals win games. Where would we be if we could not see Saka scoring? It does not make sense. Again, in the last 3 years, you've seen several improvements in the last 3 years on the goal scoring front, year in, year out for Bukayo Saka. I can't believe I'm saying this, but you look at how Wayne Rooney speaks on Bukayo Saka and, you know, comparing him to a former Arsenal player, and it seems like, you know, Wayne Rooney is more bang on the job than that than Pires. And again, football is a subjective game. But one thing I will say for Saka, you're hated, you're adored, but you're never ignored. You know, people say they don't rate you, but any winger that comes on the scene, you're used as a guiding point. Any winger that has any decent performance for their club in the Premier League, Bukayo Saka is compared to them. So if you don't rate him, why does everybody talk, people? Now, unfortunately, I might have got Robert Perez's words out of context, really. I still believe, for what it's worth, that, you know, Saka can do more to make the difference on his own. He's by no means the finished article. The man and the manager have said that. But what we're not going to do is downplay Bukayo Saka as a footballer, downplay his consistency levels, downplay his impact in big games, and downplay his overall performance for Arsenal Football Club. And this is all being said of a 23-year-old that can go up the gears and needs to go up the gears. Of course, he's not been exposed to consistent games in the Champions League owing to where Arsenal's situation has been. He's only been involved in 2 title races, and he's 23 years of age. But look what he's doing. How many players at 23 years of age were doing what he's doing? It does not make sense, Pires, and I think you've missed. And I think Henri's bang on the money with, quite simply put, you talk too much, and it's upsetting that a former legend is going to come out with this. And again, this isn't a hate campaign on Jeremy Doku, but the words might hold a lot more weight if you didn't drop Jeremy Doku. If you compared him to the Mo Salahs and all of them kind of players, then you have to hold your hands up. But for me, it's complete and utter shite that Pires has unfortunately uttered out of his mouth. It is what it is, and that's just my thoughts. Now, speaking for myself, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Who am I to have my opinion above anybody's, much less Robert Pires, apologies, people. You know, for me, he's an absolute legend. He's a childhood hero of mine. He was a fantastic player in his day. He had Real Madrid onto him. You know, he wore the number 7 shirt, the same as Bukayo Saka. There's absolutely nothing I can tell any professional, much less a higher level professional like Pires, anything about football. But as he's allowed his opinion, I'm allowed mine. Now, Bukayo Saka is 23 years of age. It feels like he's been around for a lot longer, owing to him being exposed to football at a very young age. And he's got better year in, year out. He's played in several different climates for Arsenal Football Club. It's only been in the last 2, maybe 3 years tops that we've actually been a decent footballing side. Now, he's 23 years of age. He's not the finished article. In isolation, I don't necessarily think Pires is wrong about stuff, because I do think, you know, you look at the Vinicius Juniors, the Mo Salahs, will be here all day talking about those higher level players. I do think Saka could do more to make the difference in higher moments. But to really say, you know, he's lacking experience, which he's not played in Premier League, you know, he's not played in Champions League finals. He's obviously not won a Premier League trophy. There's things that he can be exposed to. But what we're not going to sit here and do is claim that man's lacking experience. What we're not going to do is make out he's not made the difference in big games. Name a top 6 side he ain't scored against. He's bagged against City, he's bagged against Liverpool, he's bagged against Spurs, he's bagged against United. Anytime we've needed that individual, he's putting up consistent numbers in a day and age where we haven't got many players like that. For England, he's played very well in 2 European campaigns. Let's not forget the semi-finals of the World Cup against France. What we're not going to do is act like Bukayo Saka is not wavy. And what we're definitely not going to do is try and, you know, use Jeremy Doku of all people. Now, take nothing away from Doku. I think he's a great player. But do you honestly believe in your heart of hearts, Pires, and anyone that, you know, Pep Guardiola would not swap Doku for Saka in a heartbeat? You know, Pep will probably swap his own child for Bukayo Saka. Let's not talk nonsense. Now, one thing that always pees me off about Bukayo Saka and indirectly Mohamed Salah is, oh, he's not aesthetically pleasing. Who cares about that? We've seen players with a bag of party tricks not been able to do anything. There's plenty of footballers in the modern day that are more entertaining to watch than Bukayo Saka. I don't care about that. He makes the difference. We can't act like he's not a bloody good footballer to watch, you know. And again, in a day and age where a lot of players have a lot of party tricks, he makes the decisions. You know, he makes the correct decisions. You don't put out the numbers he does doing what he's doing. And there's more facets to his play. He's starting to use his right foot. He's coming inside a lot more. He's doing a lot of good stuff. And I've got nothing against Jeremy Doku, but this is what jars me, really. Doku's a great player, an exciting player. If Jeremy Doku had Bukayo Saka's decision-making and end product in the final third, he'd potentially be the best winger in the Premier League. Now, Pires, I don't know, man. I'm not gonna ever disrespect you, but are you jealous of Bukayo Saka? Is this how, are you just trying to get paid? Because the Pires, I know the player wouldn't come out with this BS. I think it's absolute nonsense and utter tosh. Now, fair enough, I might have taken things out of context, and there are certain things that I think I agree with, but that's absolute nonsense. And I'm not being funny. Jeremy Doku, of all people. Let's not act like Saka isn't one of the best in his position in the world. Let's not act like he's not one of the most consistent players in the world. Let's not act like there's not many fan bases. They can slander Saka all that they want and do all of that stuff. If Saka was offered to their manager, if there was a genuine chance they could buy Bukayo Saka, they'd do it in a heartbeat just like that. Keep doing your thing, Saka. People talk. It is what it is. Opinions are like arseholes. Everybody's got one. Nothing but respect for Pires, but you're chatting nonsense.